A shadow stretches across the Serengeti, thin and fading. Not fear but movement drives the young cheetah forward. Away from safety, it dashes, not fleeing the man by the vehicle but rushing at him. Dust puffs around its feet as it halts sharply near his leg. Wobbling, it lifts itself up, balance unsteady. One small paw touches the man's knee, soft yet urgent. Its gaze locks onto his, unwavering. Then comes a sound, sharp, strange, nothing like what big cats make, a call, high and pleading, nearly resembling words. That moment sticks. It stays with photographer Alberto Dorado long after. Out here, 15 seasons have passed since Alberto Dorado first raised his camera to the sun-scorched plains. 42 years old now, his face lined like a map of dry riverbeds. He wears a safari hat bleached by time and a vest weighed down with gear that seemed too much. He has watched lions rip into zebra flesh under pale moons, spotted hyenas drag meals from tired cheetahs at dusk, followed flocks of vultures spiraling above elephants gasping their last breaths. One thing stays fixed in his mind: watch without reaching out. Nature runs on its own terms, no saviors required. Funny how quiet it gets out here sometimes. Not even the zebra bray far off, like they normally do. No rustle of feathers from the acacia trees either. You'd think the breeze would keep moving, but it just stops. Alberto had one boot on, gear half sipped, when movement flickered at the edge of sight. A small shape stepped forward. Its stare locked onto him. Nothing about this felt accidental. A tiny body, trembling but fierce, refuses both drink and meal. Instead, it locks onto Alberto's fingers when he reaches out. With grip far too strong for its size, it pulls him forward. Eyes fixed ahead, it leads toward the deep cut in the earth others name the Shadowlands, where shadows stretch long, big cats stalk beneath them, and even swift ones fall silent. A static-laced call from the guide spills through Alberto's radio, telling him to return. He silences it without reply. Out beyond the trees, disaster struck. No one saw it except this cub, small, trembling, yet standing firm. Every instinct says stay put. Still, he zips up the medical bag, tests the camera power, then steps behind the dappled shape, vanishing into dusk. What waits ahead bends reality, though he does not know it yet. Back it glances, one quick look, wet trails on its face catching golden light. Then gone into twisted thorn trees, where what comes next blurs pain and kindness, like storm meeting calm. Hang around to watch what happens next. Drop a note with your location saying hello would be good, just to trace how wide this tale has spread. Shaking fingers tightened around the strap of his camera case. From behind the driver's seat, he pulled out the worn medical box, coated in desert dust. A voice snapped through the static Marcus again, urgent, repeating questions without pause. Rain clouds rolled at the horizon, dark and low. Movement was necessary, escape required. Yet Alberto flipped the power switch on the radio. Into his jacket went the device, mute now, silenced by decision. Quiet settled like something final. A shape flickered at the fringe of the high grass echo, the name surfaced as if carried on wind, tied to those yelps that bounced between stone walls. Stillness held him there, except for eyes burning gold, fixed on Alberto. Then movement, 1 foot ahead from the man, and instantly the cub twisted, leaping into the sunlit blades, perdappled, vanishing, then flashing again through gaps like light playing tricks. Breaking trail behind a creature into unknown land went against everything Alberto ever studied across 15 seasons shooting animals in the wild. Not leaving signs of your presence? That rule wasn't only about respect for trees and soil, it kept you alive. Change one natural moment, and death might find you worse. Unseen damage could spread through life systems like cracks in thin ice. Yet, as he forced his way forward through stalks taller than his shoulders, catching echoes, cries growing sharper up ahead, something shifted inside him. Maybe certain boundaries weren't made to hold. Foot by foot, the ground turned harder to cross. Rolling fields of grass faded behind, replaced by jagged stones and prickly bushes snagging Alberto's pants. Under his boots, pieces of rock slid without warning when he stepped. Breathing felt heavier now, like the sky itself pressed down, urging him to stop. Still, sounds from Echo tugged him ahead, every call sharper, more urgent than before. That is when Alberto looked up and saw them shadows gliding above. Vultures. Not a pair, not a few, but many large birds circling slowly on rising air currents. Each one floated with wide-open wings, patient, watching. Where those creatures gather, something has already died, or won't last much longer. A tightness rose in his gut once it hit him. Echo's constant shouting had drawn attention. Out here, being heard can get you killed. A cry like that pulled danger close, shouted where you were, made you look weak. That this small cub screamed without care suggested what waited ahead demanded every risk be taken. A shadow passed under the tall grass, yet the bird stayed still. That biggest one, skin shiny like wet stone, cracked a sound sharp as breaking twigs. Not quite silence followed, more like breath held too long. Waiting came easy to them, folded into their bones. Time didn't matter when you knew the ground would give up its weight eventually. Not far off, Echo's cries sharpened, pulling Alberto forward faster than he meant to go. Light slipped sideways through the trees, shifting from warm gold into something cooler, deeper. A damp set rode the air, faint at first, then stronger as wind moved in from beyond the ridge. Nothing else stirred, not a bird, not a rustle, just silence where there should have been noise. Each stride sent his camera swinging, thumping softly against his ribs, a rhythm he knew well, though today it didn't settle him. Like a burden. A bristly line of rocks marked where the open field stopped, then dropped sharply below. Down there stretched what villagers named the Shadowlands. It earned the title without trying. Sunlight barely lasted inside, eaten up by jagged cliffs draped in crooked acacias and thickets clawing every direction. Leopards owned this split in the earth, their patch, their rules. Other predators kept clear, especially cheetahs grown past cubhood. A shadowy figure perched where the land dropped away, framed by evening light. That brief glance backward, two eyes meeting across growing distance, held something deeper than words. Without another sound, the young one slipped beyond sight, moving down. Hands gripped stone like instinct knew the way long before mine did. Beneath his feet, pebbles skittered away as Alberto scrambled downward, more slip than step. Roots grabbed at his fingers, rough stones scraped his palms, every shift sending metal parts banging inside his pack. Light bent strangely here, lower down, twisting what he knew about who hunted whom across open grass. Shadows stretched long, shapes blurred this hollow played by different terms. Beneath the rim of the gorge, Alberto stood inside a bowl carved by time and tangled roots. From cracked ground, old acacia trees rose like bent fingers, weaving shadows across the fading sun. Coolness touched his skin, yet the silence felt tight, charged like stone waiting to speak. Each step echoed slightly too loud. Footsteps followed the voice, winding through stone corridors where still water gathered beneath heaps of pale bone remains hinting at old violence. With every step, dead leaves cracked underfoot, stones skittered sideways, noise bouncing sharp and sudden against tight rock faces. Light thinned quickly. Fingers moved to the camera without thought, adjusting dials before darkness made images impossible. That is when she appeared. He noticed her right away. Beneath a heavy acacia branch, Serafina stayed motionless, her smooth pattern first shifting with each strained breath. Thick as Alberto's waist, the broken limb stretched over her back legs, holding them fast against sharp rocks below. Yet it wasn't the weight crushing her that caught his attention, it was the noise coming from deep inside her. Not a cry, not a whimper, but a steady rumble humming through the earth underfoot. Still, those golden brown eyes like echoes yet deeper, shaped by years of tracking and surviving, did not look at Alberto. Instead, they locked onto a shape hidden behind the toppled trunk, where darkness clung thick. That unseen presence pulled tight every sinew in her strong frame, ready to strike. He moved forward without hurry, palms out where they could be seen, voice soft like water over stones, the way trainers taught him for frightened creatures. "It's okay," he said. "I won't hurt you." Closer now, the dog's rumble deepened, sharp teeth bared. Then it struck him. Her threat wasn't aimed at him. She was guarding against what lay behind. Out near the trees, Echo stayed close to his mother, tucking himself into her warmth, while their voices mixed in quiet unison. A moment passed soft, raw, with the older one licking at the youngster's coat, then snapping back to watch the dark edges again. Something waited there, unseen by Alberto, something that had sent the cub running toward people earlier. Her attention never wavered, fixed on what moved between the branches. Movement slow, he drew near, the instinct of a lensman tuning to shadows without thought. Then sight froze him, breath gone, pulse cut short. Beneath Serafina's jaw, tucked tight, lay a newborn Thompson's gazelle, shaking, breathing, eyes barely open. Only days old, it seemed, with shaky limbs and fur marked by fresh spots that held the musk of birth. By rights, this small animal belonged in her jaws, torn into pieces under golden sun. Cheetahs run down gazelles that truce shapes the grasslands like fire or drought. One meant to kill, one born to flee. Such is the rhythm written deep in dust and bone. Yet at this unlikely instant, nature's rules bent under a force stronger than mere survival. Not instinct, but care forged bonds across kinds, defying what logic would allow. A bond formed where none could belong, sheltering breath that once faced certain loss. Once built to hunt, now Serafina stood watch, her purpose reshaped, her prey now safe beneath her gaze. His fingers reached for the camera before he caught himself. Not now. This called for doing, not recording. Under the thick acacia limb pinning Serafina, her legs were giving way. Every second that passed drained more of her strength to guard what she could not let fall. A heavy silence hung as he placed the camera case aside, moving toward the toppled trunk. Not a photographer now, more like a man used to solving problems where none seemed possible. That limb loomed large, yet rested unevenly atop scattered stones shifting slightly in the wind. One smart push at the correct spot, maybe using a broken stump nearby as support, could tilt it upward, just high enough for her to slide out without harm. He braced into the wood at a sharp tilt, pushing hard. The limb creaked under pressure, nudging just a fraction while grit held it fast. A quiet shift, nothing more. Her gaze stayed locked on him, steady and clear, not blank, not distant. That look carried something close to trust, maybe even recognition, as if she sensed his intent without words. This man came because of the cry. He showed up. This attempt came with the camera's monopod jammed under the limb, serving as a makeshift pry bar. Downward force followed, every ounce of his weight driving into it. Bending sharply, the steel held just enough for the wood above to lift by mere inches, yet enough. That gap sparked movement in Serafina. Her back legs twitched, then strained forward. Still, motion faded fast. Blood had stopped flowing hours earlier, leaving muscle lifeless, like wet rope refusing to tighten. That moment came when pressure bent the crude tool, and Serafina twisted under weight. His gaze caught movement. Deep within darkness past the toppled trunk, lights glowed. Nothing like the soft fire found in cheetahs, these burned sharp, metallic, watchful. A beast they whispered about at dusk, a huge leopard marked by old wounds, known to strike without warning. His name carried only in hushes, the ghost. Still as stone, the leopard kept his eyes fixed ahead. A cheetah caught in wire, a young gazelle trembling nearby, his sharp nose caught every scent. Not hunger alone drove him, but timing. One move too soon would ruin it all. The breeze shifted, then silence fell. That was when he knew. Muscles coiled beneath spotted fur. What looked like luck was really calculation. Patience broke only when advantage appeared. Movement followed thought without delay. Fear hit hard when Alberto saw what stood before him. Not simply helping a hurt animal now, he blocked a predator mid-hunt, holding only a twisted metal pole and a blinking light. One strike from that cat, built to haul heavy game skyward, would be enough to end everything. A flick of clawed limbs, shaped by years in the wild, meant certain stillness. Down below, under the toppled trunk, something held him there. The mother growling low, her cub pressed close. A small gazelle trembling near them, each one stubborn against the odds. That sight dug into his chest like cold fingers. Giving up wasn't an option anymore. There are instances when silence won't do, when staying quiet means losing yourself. Standing firm showed who you really were. A shape emerged where darkness had been, slow and heavy. Out of nowhere came a figure too large to ignore, built like trouble. Scars ran across his skin, each one older than the last. Not just any gaze burned their yellow, unblinking, sharp enough to cut stone. Victory always followed him, never questioned. Pressure climbed into space between breaths. What he wanted stood close now, within reach. Silence stretched tight before motion began. Up went Alberto, moving careful, his fingers calm though fear ran wild inside. He had gone against his own must not break law, messing with the wild. And now, the wild looked ready to show him exactly what that meant. Yet when Echo leaned into her mom, and the small deer shook under Serafina's jaw, something shifted. Maybe lines drawn in stone deserve cracking. Perhaps standing tall matters, even when falling is certain. Beneath the speckled fur, tension coiled through the animal's frame. In moments, nothing stays the same. Survival isn't the issue, timing is. Can he hold off the threat long enough? This strange group must get away. If he gives himself up, maybe kindness survives somewhere, even here. A low growl rolled across the sky. Then came the rain, just a few cold splashes at first. A shiver ran through the ground as if something old had opened its eyes. Rain began tapping on stone, sounding like coins dropped on iron. Each drop carried weight, hinting at what followed. Soon those taps settled into rhythm, firm, unrelenting. Noise built until it drowned thought. Water rushed where silence once held sway. What was already dangerous now wore a sharper edge. Water seeped under Alberto's hat, dripping slow down his skin, making him twitch even though the night stayed hot. Mud clung to his shoes, shifting with every small move as he stood firm between the cornered cheetahs and the quiet threat nearby. When the rain started, the ghost vanished, but something about the silence said it was still there. Those pale eyes never left him, fixed and patient, just beyond the trees. Water fell, bringing good things along with danger. Because of the downpour, their smell drifted away, so the leopard might lose their trail. Yet the noise built a wall of sound, hiding steps that let the ghost slip nearer unseen. Listening hard, Alberto searched for soft thuds under the roar, wet claws on rock maybe, but thunder drowned everything past short distances. Serafina appeared aware of the shift too. Not a sound came from her now, just stillness charged with readiness, tight like a wire about to snap. Close to the ground she stayed, shielding the little gazelle beneath her jaw, those golden eyes scanning past the broken trunk into blackness. Echo clung to her flank, shaking all over, cold maybe, or dread, hard for Alberto to say. A crack tore open the night sky, showing jagged edges of rock and thorn below just long enough to see. For one breath, shapes stood still in the light. Then came a flicker deep in the dark, yellow eyes, fur like smoke on stone. That creature moved when thunder rolled, slipping forward under noise and rain. Each boom hit its steps. It waited, closer now, watching. Fingers found the camera, adjusting flash like muscle memory taking over. 3 bars of power glowed on screen 20. 30 bursts left if luck held. Not a real defense against something with claws and teeth, yet still the only thing within reach. A sudden flare could confuse it, at least for seconds. Those seconds rarely fix anything. He saw now. No path forward, just reactions piling up behind fear. A sudden flicker lit the sky again, revealing the ghost without shadow. 30 paces away now, the great leopard stood still, scars cutting across his muzzle like old secrets. Power rolled under wet fur, thick shoulders coiled tight, built much larger than Serafina ever was. His presence filled the space, not loud, but heavy. One snap of those jaws would end anything. At peak power, he owned these woods by force, never asking permission. A crack split the air after the flash, pounding hard enough to rattle stone deep inside the narrow canyon. Right then, when sound swallowed everything, the figure slipped forward. A sudden flicker at the edge of his sight made Alberto turn just in time to catch the dappled shape surging through wet sky. The world stretched thin while muscle and instinct carried the animal onward, paws outstretched, teeth bared. Light burst from the device when his hand reacted, snapping forward a fraction before impact. That flash froze the predator midair, caught between motion and stillness. A flash ripped down the narrow valley, bright as a tiny star bursting open, slicing each raindrop into sharp glints, while jagged dark shapes twisted over stone. Midair, muscles coiled for landing, the ghost froze when the blaze hit his widened eyes burned, sending a growl tearing from his throat. Ground slammed beneath him, skull throbbing, one huge hand swiping at stinging lids, sight gone wild from sudden fire. Suddenly upright, Serafina fought through the ache in her locked limbs, driven by something deeper than fear. Her shoulders lifted, dragging her body into a shield over the small fawn despite the weight still holding her lower half down. From behind, Echo moved ahead, tiny frame tensed, releasing a sharp puff of noise more squeak than threat, really, like wind sneaking out of rubber, though he stood firm regardless. His sight snapped back faster than expected. Not just any leopard stood there, but one shaped by survival, hardened through countless fights, untouched even by sudden light. Around the man it turned, step after silent step, like water cutting stone. Yellow eyes locked onto Alberto, filled with something cold. This person had stepped into business that was never theirs. Disruption here meant consequence. Payment would come. His hand hovered near the shutter, camera lifted once more, though Alberto understood it changed nothing. Every spark of light stole power from the machine, slowly weakening it. The creature grew sharper each time, readying itself behind those eyes. It shifted weight to one side, a trick meant to fool him, then sprang toward the shadowed edge, watching how fast he'd respond. That is when the small gazelle moved unlike before. Under Serafina's sheltering jaw, the young one had stayed quiet, shaking until now. A stillness took hold of it fast. Staring into black space near Alberto's side, its gaze held tight. Something there made its frame lock solid. All hearing, all sight aimed at what he could not spot. Out there, where the wind carries secrets, those being hunted could sense what hunters never would. Staying alive meant noticing first, seeing a flicker, hearing silence, feeling wrongness in the air. A young gazelle, barely steady on its legs, held ancient warnings deep inside, not learned, but born into every cell. That quiet alertness? It came from ancestors who lived only because they listened when something unseen tugged at their gut. Without stopping to think, Alberto turned fast toward where the young deer looked frozen. Light burst from his flashlight right when the predator jumped out of blackness. Rain had hidden the animal's move sideways, sneaking behind him without sound. A split second earlier, the deer saw it coming. That tiny delay gave him time. He acted before fear set in. Surprise hit the beast harder than the light did. A burst of light hit right in front of the ghost mid-leap, claws aimed at Alberto's neck. Out came a howl, sharp, raw from the animal as it slammed down. tumbling hard over jagged rock, blinking fast to shake off the glare. Backpedaling fast, Alberto slid on slick stone, breath wild, pulse pounding under his skin. The canyon threw back every sound like broken echoes. Yet the ghost wasn't done. Not even close. In Africa, leopards like him survive by stubborn will. Sharp instincts, this male earned his ground through raw persistence, cold precision. Light faded from his eyes fast, shock replaced by rage, old scars tightening as anger took hold. Playtime ended. Victory wouldn't slip away again. A sudden stillness came over the leopard, every muscle tight under wet fur, ready to spring. This was it. Alberto realized no more chances, no second thoughts. Fast as shadow, the beast would strike without mercy. Not even his last burst of speed could save him now. That moment, the earth started trembling. A rumble hit Alberto's ears, though something about its steady beat felt off. Stones near the edge twitched and hopped without warning. Mid-stride, the ghost froze, its sharp gaze flickering toward the tremor. Each breath brought deeper pulses, louder than before. Ground shivers climbed higher, unrelenting. A noise unlike any before filled the space, low, sharp, cutting through like a horn pulled up from stone. One reply rose, then another joined, building into a hum that shook loose the stillness. Rain blurred everything, yet movement broke through. Heavy steps rolled forward. Plants snapped under weight. Clear signs of huge bodies passing in the gloom. A figure rose along the edge, sudden as thunder before rain. Huge beyond most of her kind stood the old female, ivory worn dark, skin carved with time's marks from years under open sky. Not silence, but movement followed, family shapes emerging one after another. Calves close to mothers, younger ones lagging slightly, grown bodies stepping in rhythm. They moved not because told, yet pulled by something older than sound. A shape moved down their quick glance, sharp mind caught every piece. Cheetah stuck, pursing close by like shielding something, then, that shadow near the rocks, a leopard, clear now. Big cats never sat right with elephants, not when they stalked the little ones. Calves gone before, taken by spots in the trees. She remembered each loss, exact and deep. A sudden trumpet blast sent dust tumbling down the canyon sides as the huge elephant started downward. Down there, on uneven ground, she stepped without hesitation, half a century of rough paths guiding every move. Behind her came the rest, each footfall loose pebbles, then stones, then whole patches of earth sliding away beneath them. One kick from that size foot would break every bone inside him. The old female elephant showed rage clear enough to see. Not stupid, despite his boldness and love for his land, the big cat knew better than most. Many fighters crossed his path before, yet elephants stood apart somehow. Giving a last growl full of anger, he slipped away behind dark cracks. His dappled fur blended into stone tangles and sharp bushes until nothing stayed visible. Down in the ravine, she moved toward the toppled tree without rushing. That trunk, so strong yet able to handle things, like a whisper, tested the log slowly. Right away, it was clear to her what came next. Out of nowhere, the old elephant moved slow but sure, her trunk curling around the heavy wood, pinning Serafina down. That thick branch Alberto could barely budge, it earlier floated upward like something broken off a sapling. Legs stiff from being stuck so long, Serafina started pushing, sliding out before dust even settled. Up high, the old elephant kept the branch lifted, while Serafina scrambled out from underneath. Only after she was safe did the massive creature ease it back down into the dirt. Her gaze settled on the cheetahs. Alberto saw kindness there, quiet and deep. Wisdom lived in those aged eyes, older than names or categories. Then came a stillness where hunger forgot its purpose, fear lost its edge, all beneath the shadow of something far larger, who simply stood guard. Faint light crept into the east just as the downpour eased, replaced by a quiet rhythm against the ground. Thunder rolled away, swallowed by the far-off peaks. while color seeped through the clouds, soft pinks blending into pale gold. Fog lifted as morning came. Darkness faded into pale light across the fields. Quiet settled between trees where wind had howled hours before. Feet touching ground slow, Serafina bit her lip when the tingling started up again. Hurt she was, yes, yet one foot could follow the other, even if each step dragged more than the last. Close by, Echo leaned into her hip, for warmth. Breath shaky? Just glad to be near. Beside them, the little fawn stayed glued to Serafina's shadow, knees jittery, ears flicking, breathing, standing, surviving. Light spread across the ground. A soft call reached Alberto's ear, sharp enough to lift the young gazelle's head. From far past the deep cut in the land, unseen animals moved through open grass. Their cries floated downwind, thin but clear. Familiar noises pulled at the small creature. One slow motion followed forward, then still. A quiet weight settled in Serafina's chest as she studied the small shape before her. This one lived because of her, sheltered when shadows stretched longest across the ground. Yet warmth from another like itself, something only kin could offer, was beyond her reach. The sounds echoing through trees pulled at something deep. Slowly, softly, she guided it forward using just the touch of her snout. That little gazelle paused, glancing over its shoulder, dark eyes locking with Serafina's golden ones just for a breath, everything clear between them. Off it went then, heading for the edge of the ravine, unsteady at first but gaining sureness fast. Up close, Alberto stood frozen, stunned silent, while the newborn picked its way upward on shaky limbs, drawn forward not by thought but something deep and old, pulled by faint echoes of kin calling from above. A low trumpet came from the lead female elephant, soft, meaningful, as she started climbing out of the deep cut in the earth. Behind her, each large animal moved up and over the edge, vanishing slowly like shadows at dawn. What stayed was just noise underfoot, thinning as they went further away. Breathing shallow, Alberto lowered himself next to Serafina, stunned by the moment. Her gaze held his, steady, golden, full of knowing. Then came the slow rasp of her tongue across his fingers, careful yet firm. Not a sound broke the air, just that quiet act speaking louder than words ever could. Thanksgiving, identity seen, connection built through fire and choice. Off went Echo, brushing past Alberto's leg like a pet might, then trotting to join his mom. The pair moved slowly now, heading for the edge of the deep cut in the land, Serafina favoring one leg yet still steady. At the crest, they stopped. Morning light painted them dark shapes on the horizon. One last glance was cast behind. Farewell hung in Alberto's gesture, fingers lifting slow though words stayed locked behind his ribs. A shutterbug by trade, he arrived chasing frostbitten truths beneath gray skies. Now departure wore a different skin holder of secrets too strange to classify. Keeper of bond science would scoff at. Rules mattered less once you saw how light bends around love. Footsteps crunching on dry earth, Alberto lifted the strap of his camera case and moved uphill, away from the edge. The gorge faded behind, quiet once more, holding close whatever it had seen. Not every moment slips away some stick, like thorns in fabric. That night, fierce claws stood guard instead of attacking. Rival creatures walked side by side, strange but true. Rules written deep in blood were set aside, just for hours. What lived there now was not instinct, not survival, it wore a different name. He would carry that weight long after dust covered the path. Above the flatlands, light spread wide, turning dust into gold. Not far off, a young gazelle stirred. The air held still, then cracked with movement. Shadows stretched like slow thoughts across the soil. A breeze arrived without warning, carrying warmth from unseen places. Life waited, quiet but awake. Made it back where it started.